Hey guys, Sullivan here in Philadelphia. I thought we would do a little October planting update. I had some trees planted over the weekend. I was actually out of town visiting my 96-year-old grandmother. I had marked them out for Tim, my husband, but I thought we'd look around and I'd show you what we got planted and what I have left, because I have to finish up all my planting this week because my greenhouse is arriving, and I think that's going to take me about 2 weeks to put together. No signs of a frost heading my way, which means my dahlias are still really going strong. I don't know if it's just me or if it's that this is really the third year for most of my plants, but everything looks really, really good. Let's go look at some trees. We moved some stuff, we planted some new stuff, and you'll get to see a little bit of what's happening. So let's take a quick look around, and it'll help me make a list of things that I still have to do before I get started on that greenhouse. I had a golden spirit, or like a green toned smoke tree right where that new small ornamental yellow pine is. And it just never thrived. I don't think it got enough sun. This is pretty much full grown. It's staked because it's one of those types of pine that can wander. I want to try to keep it straight, and I thought it was a good contrast with the fence. So would I still love to have a golden colored smoke tree up here? Yes, but I'm not entirely sure we're getting enough sun here. My big pine has grown quite a bit. So, but that is tree number one. So I have a couple guys that come and help me. We met them when we used to get our grass mowed before there were any gardens here. And they'll come over and help me doing some side work. So I'm very grateful for them, because as much as I do try to do as much as I can myself, there are some things that my augers and my back can't handle on their own. One of the things that I had them do was plant this, it's called Tiger Rose. It's a small Japanese maple. I bought it in the spring when I was buying trees for the other areas, and it kind of sat in its pot, so it was a little root bound. I know they had to do some work on it, but my neighbor's elm tree, we usually trim these branches that come over the fence, but as that tree keeps getting bigger and bigger, in order to maintain a little pocket of privacy, and this is kind of my shady border. So I thought, let me try to back up a little. I thought as it grew in, it might fill in this negative space a bit. And they have a couple of pretty maples on their side of the fence. But yeah, this elm, it just really wants to eat my house. So we have to have it trimmed up almost every year. I think I had mentioned this before, but this is another tree I bought in the spring that got planted. It's a Nootka spruce? Because to me it looks like a cypress, but I'm probably wrong. I'll put the name up. Not too much happening here. So last year, this time, I planted another Japanese maple. This one's Amber Ghost. I planted it where that hole is and realized it wasn't a good place for it. So similarly to how we're doing the other one, I'm trying to let it grow up a little and fill in the negative space here under the elm. And then I feel like this is the area of the garden we don't talk about. I planted a tricolor beech that I've had in a container for several years here as like motivation for next season to start working on this garden. And then you can see a really pretty blue deodar cedar. We had that planted in the spring And due to some root issues and things, we were never really happy with the placement. So we actually just like shifted it back. But this is the part of the garden that still haven't been able to tackle. But I'm sure this tree will be happy to finally get out of a pot and into the ground. I thought that this would actually be like a year of a couple big infrastructure things, but getting to enjoy the garden more. And it feels like, if anything, it's been like a lot more work. So in tree relocation, I had a serpentine blue atlas cedar in that cavernous hole. And we kept it. It needed to go in a different place. This is one area in front of my office and studio that gets a little more sun, that can have something a little more interesting happening with the planting. And now that everything that's wood is this same, it's railings from Farrow and Ball color, I wanted something that popped a little bit more off the house, and I have a really pretty planting group heading into this zone. And eventually I'd like to revisit all the planting here, but unfortunately, fortunate for the neighbors, but unfortunately for the plants here, I'm pretty hard on this area in the winter time with the holiday decorating. So if you peek over the Amsonia, you can see the back of the cedar. And so I moved it there to sort of help create a dividing line. And you're gonna have to bear with me because things really are like a big work in progress around here. Like garden tools left everywhere. I am very happy that we haven't gotten a frost yet, because this is KA's Khaleesi. It's a very big white dinner plate dahlia, and I'm sincerely hoping we get to see that bloom, because that was an expensive tuber. I had to take down all the hyacinth bean. Somebody must have planted some roses in the middle of the night and just left everything there. I wonder who that could have been. Long ago, I thought it would be a good idea to try planting edible plants like raspberries and blackberries among my flower beds, because they look so pretty when you pop a little branch into arrangements. Not realizing, being the girl that's never gardened before, 2018, that raspberries and blackberries send out crazy amounts of runners. So they had I had a golden raspberry here in this void that was basically terrorizing the other plants. And I had blackberries in another area, and I have since made an area to plant the canes. But I kind of can't believe how pretty everything still is. I feel like it looked bleak last year. I'm just astounded at how good everything still looks. Imagine if I were somebody that could get it together to stake their dahlias, how pretty this would be. Sorry, just had a pollen-induced coughing fit. Yeah, the only thing that's, and it's even not that bad. It's sort of a little bit echoes that rose, but this is clearly a mislabeled dahlia. I didn't order anything red. And I can't think that I would plant Emery Paul over here. But yeah, it's just really nice to see everything looking so pretty. And yeah, even still some foxgloves. So as pretty as all of this is, one of the things that we're trying to solve with our weedy lawn removal is we are going to be expanding the beds a bit. So probably not done moving plants over here, but here's an area, the golden deodar was planted, but here's an area that I've been working on. I really, really love the color story for this bed. I'll put the planning document for it. I can't continue planting it until the dahlias come out, but this summer I had been storing some plants around here and thought this tree looked really pretty with some of these bluey lavenders. That pretty double file viburnum used to be right here. It's a pretty shrub. It was basically in storage here, and we liked it, and we liked the amount that it's growing over the fence. It was not in the right spot here. So, not that I'm wanting to get rid of all of these beautiful dahlias that I have barely been cutting, but when they do, there's one last big planting push in here. I started experimenting with adding some planters into the potager. I even have footage of it. How about that? I planted this area up. We are putting blackberries and raspberries in these two planters back here. And I'll stake them next year so that they go upright. But these are 4 trees that were planted in the summer. And from what I'm reading, the magnolias, when they flower a lot, they struggle to keep up and they end up pushing out a lot of leaves. So I've checked that everything's still green on it. It's just taking its time. So, not a tree, but this is the microclover. It's been getting a lot of buzz. I put it in as an option instead of grass, and I have to say it has grown in really well. And even though I had some pretty heavy foot traffic on it as I was planting all of that, it looks like it's recovering. So, not much else is happening in the vegetable beds for the season. I think this is eventually going to be strawberries, which didn't do well. They kind of got dwarfed by the tomatoes. So, but until I have this grass and lawn situation sorted out, I can't really worry about pretty planter groupings. My plumber left me some PEX because I need to run the lines for the water to the greenhouse. Here's where more blackberries had tormented my plants. I have been planting like crazy, and there's still so much stuff left to do. I guess the positive of taking a break from planting is that at least I'll have the greenhouse to put everything in. the olive tree is destined for the greenhouse. All right, let's take a look outside because we did plant a few more things out there. The real highlight of this year has been outside the fence. Even though I don't spend a lot of time out here, everything has just grown in so incredibly well that, yeah. So this is where that viburnum ended up. There was a grass here, Twilight Zone, that it's one of those newer ones that some company that gets promoted all the time messed with. And I gotta say, I don't think they made it better. So I don't really need to keep things out here that don't thrive because you can see there's plenty of things that thrive. Doesn't the mully grass look funny with water all over it? Yeah, it's not frost, but it looks frosty. There's another blue deodar cedar growing well, not as well as its friend in the back. This soil is incredibly poor, so we do mulch it and feed things with compost out here because it's not good. I don't think I ever shared footage or photos, but through basically forensic gardening, I've discovered that the people we bought our house from, the family that lived here for 50 years, they actually built this up. And so how they did it was with, basically it looks like garbage soil, some rocks, sand, things like that. And for the most part, the top soil over the years is okay. But as we dig in to plant these really big trees, you discover some things are not good under there. So I'm gonna make sure to be giving everything out here that's evergreen, that's been growing. It's gonna need some feeding, I think. That gray smoke tree is going to be awesome next year. So technically these are trees, or, you know, right now they look like small shrubs. But I got these 3 Ember Waves arborvitae. They're a Western arborvitae. I ordered them from Monrovia 3 years ago. They were canceled, they were reinstated. I think at one point they were refunded. Then I ordered them again, and then randomly one day, because when you buy from monrovia.com, they let you pick a place to send them to, a local nursery. And one day the local True Value, Hollids, called me up and said, "Hey, we have 3 trees for you." I was absolutely shocked. So they're all a little funny. They're gonna need a little love and attention, I think, as the year goes on. I have to figure out if I'm gonna do a leader, but they're, I would call them, I guess, like a medium format arborvitae. They get about 6 to 8 feet wide and 20 feet tall, which would put them ultimately about as tall as that smoke tree. So the goal would be for them to fill in, I'll probably trim that smoke tree a little bit, but to fill in some of the negative space here. I think I'm gonna get pampas plumes this year for the first time. I grew these from seed. I don't think I ever really thought that they would flower, but they look happy. Well, 2 out of the 3 of them look happy. But yeah, all of this, I keep trying to, my neighbors can't quite believe it, but all of this was planted last year before the first week of July. except for these brown sugar dahlias, which I just popped in to fill up space. But that rising sun red bud, I shaped it a little bit on the inside, but I really like how it's growing out here. That is definitely most improved plant after 3 years. Out here frizzing up. All right, guys, thank you so much for walking around, checking out some of the tree planting and October planting. I just got my last box of fall peony roots, which I am excited to get into the ground. I'm going to plant as much as I can the next couple days, and then the intimidating prospect of building the greenhouse, which, by the way, I am planning to do pretty much by myself. I may have the guys that help me move some of the gravel for the flooring, which I did finally figure out, but more on that to come. I have a tendency to try to maybe push myself a little too much to get stuff done, but for some reason with this, I'm very eager to get it done because I want to make sure nothing's broken or damaged as we head into the colder months, because it really would stink to be out there working on it in the freezing cold. So I do feel really confident that there won't be anything wrong with it, but it travels pretty far. It is glass. You know, I want to make sure everything's okay. I really want to take my time too to make sure everything's level and square, because it's a square greenhouse. I want everything to look nice. I've put so much effort into making the space for it that I need to take my time, not rush, really, really follow through on the 25-step plan for finishing it. And like I said, at least if I don't get all of this planted in a couple weeks of effort, I'll have a nice, cozy greenhouse to put all these plants in while I figure out if I can get them planted before the ground freezes. So that's where I'll be. And then I'm happy to say that I have already started figuring out my holiday plans for holiday decorations. I know, hello to many new subscribers who I think found me through one of my ornament garland videos. Welcome. We will be using ornaments again this year, because when you own 4,000 of them, you pretty much have to use them every year in order to justify to your husband why you keep them. So stay tuned for that. And I'm gonna go get the augers out and get planting. All right, guys, thanks. See you soon.